Early in the morning on June 3rd, we started our walking tour around Old Montreal. Our first stop was at the Mary Queen of the World Cathedral, a minor basilica and the third largest church in Quebec after St. Joseph's Oratory and the Basilica of Sainte Anne de Beaupré east of Quebec City. On the exterior, the magnificent statues along the roof are the most striking part of the structure. The 13 statues represent the patron saints of the parishes which form the Diocese of Montreal. The cathedral's green copper dome is easy to see from various parts of town. All the statues were sculpted by Olindo Graton between 1892 and 1898. They represent from left to right Saint Anthony of Padua, Saint Vincent de Paul, Saint Hyacinth, Saint Thomas Aquinas, Saint Paul, Saint John, Saint James the Greater, Saint Joseph, Saint John the Baptist, Saint Patrick, Saint Ignatius of Antioch, Saint Charles Borromeo, and Saint Francis of Assisi. Inside, the nave is decorated by statues, paintings, and frescoes. The magnificent coffered vault is as impressive as the gilded bronze neo-Baroque baldachin, a permanent canopy of state that sits over the altar. The magnificent interior closely resembles the inside of St. Peter's. The high altar even features a replica of favorite Vatican artist Gian Lorenzo Bernini's baldachin. Made of gilded bronze, the ornate baldachin at Mary Queen of World Cathedral was designed by architects Arthur Vincent and Olindo Graton. The baldachin was fully handmade and made with red copper and gold leaf. The angels, garlands, and papal insignia were sculpted between 1910 and 1911 by Olindo Graton. This full work of art was a donation to the cathedral by the Sulpicians. This Roman Catholic minor basilica was patterned after St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, but it is 1/4 the size. It was finished in 1894 and reconstructed in 2005. Now in view is the back of the baldachin. Mary Queen of World Cathedral dome ceiling is richly adorned and gorgeous, as evident by this photo of the transept crossing above the altar. The great organ was inaugurated in 1893. At that time it consisted of 56 stops on 3 manuals and a pedal board. The instrument was restored in 1996 and now it counts a total of 93 stops, 4 manuals and 1 pedal board. The monument in memory of Bishop Ignace Bourget was unveiled on June 24, 1903, in front of the replica of St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, which he had built. 2 allegorical statues represent religion and charity. Canada Plaza was developed along with the present Dorchester Square between 1872 and 1876 and was formally inaugurated that year as Dominion Square. In 1967, when Canada celebrated its centennial anniversary, the southern portion of Dominion Square was renamed and given the name of Canada Plaza. From this point, the southern and northern section of the park had different names. Dominating the plaza is the monument in memory of Sir John Alexander Macdonald, the first Prime Minister of Canada. The monument was unveiled in 1895. The Governor-General of Canada unveiled Montreal's cenotaph in the Place du Canada, a part of Dominion Square, in 1921. Facing Place du Canada is St. George's Anglican Church, a fine example of English Gothic Revival architecture. The bell tower was completed in 1894. The church was designated as a National Historic Site of Canada in 1990. The Sun Life Building is a historic 24-story office building that faces Dorchester Square in downtown Montreal. Its construction began in 1914 and it was completed in 1931 after 3 stages of construction. One Place Ville-Marie, formerly Royal Bank Tower, is a 47-story cruciform office tower. Built in the international style in 1962 as headquarters for the Royal Bank of Canada, 1 PVM is arguably the city's most distinctive building. This skyscraper is Montreal's tallest building. La Tour CIBC was the tallest building in Montreal from 1962 to 1963. Dorchester Square, originally Dominion Square, is a large urban square in downtown Montreal. Together with Place du Canada, the area is just over 21,000 square meters of manicured and protected urban parkland. It is a focal point for pedestrian traffic in the city. The Boer War Memorial, located in the center of the square, is the only equestrian statue in Montreal, and typically it is not mounted but restrained. The Boer War was widely unpopular in Quebec society, viewed as an imperial war. Around the base of the statue there are copper reliefs and the names of each battle. The Robert Burns statue is a tribute to the industrialists and financiers of Montreal's Scottish community. Burns represents the socially conscious and refined romantic ideal of the community during the High Victorian era. The Lion of Belfort is a reclining British imperial lion that appears reposed, calm and alert, indicating that the city is safe. The lion was sculpted by George William Hill, who was inspired by the Lion of Belfort, a monumental statue by Frederick Bartholdi in Belfort, France. The monument was inaugurated in 1897. Ignace Bourget, the second Bishop of Montreal, wanted the churches of his diocese to replicate the architecture of Roman churches. This was reflected in the design of Mary Queen of the World Cathedral after St. Peter's Basilica in Vatican City. Similarly, the Church of the Jesu was based on the Church of the Jesu in Rome. Construction began in 1864 and the church opened on July 10, 1865. The interior's wall decorations and frescoes done in the Illusion style are the work of painter Daniel Muller. They illustrate the history of salvation in the upper portion of the church, as well as scenes taken from the lives of saints and of blessed Jesuits in the lower portion of the church. Here is a view of the beautiful sanctuary. Notice that the wall decorations end with a fresco of the crucifixion presented right above the altar. The statue of the Sacred Heart stands above the main altar, since the church is dedicated to the heart of Jesus. Admire also the great beauty of the marquetry on the floor in the sanctuary area. In view, the altar where a statue of Our Lady of Liesse takes center stage. The statue was brought back from France in 1877. It contains the ashes of the original statue, which was burnt during the French Revolution. These votive offerings are reminders of favors obtained by praying at the foot of this altar. Altar of the Holy Canadian Martyrs, canonized in 1930. St. Louis Gonzaga painting by the Gagliardi brothers in Rome. Altar consecrated to St. Louis Gonzaga. Altar consecrated to Saint Ignatius Loyola and his companions. On the left is this fresco presenting the vision of the Storta, in which the Eternal Father asks Jesus to accept Ignatius as a companion in Rome. On the right, Ignatius Loyola is writing the spiritual exercises. The Casavant great organ was restored in 1986 and re-inaugurated in 1987. The Church of the Jesu celebrated its 150th anniversary in 2015. Following are pictures of buildings, parks and more we saw as we continued to walk along Rue Bleury. The Southam Building, 1916. The Palais de Congrès de Montreal is a convention center inaugurated in May 1983. Sculpture fountain La Jetée in Place Jean-Paul Riopel, backdropped by the colored windows of Palais de Congrès de Montreal. Statue of Le Grand Jean-Paul by Roselyne Granet. An electric scooter being charged. The Molson Bank 1866, Second Empire style. The Royal Bank Tower, 1928, in neoclassical style. The Nordheimer Building, 1888. Hotel Le Saint James, formerly Merchants Bank Building, 1870. The Canadian Bank of Commerce, 1907-1909. The Alfred Building in Art Deco style, completed in 1931. On the left, next to the Alfred Building, the New York Life Insurance Building, 1887-1889. The main construction work of Montreal's Notre-Dame Basilica took place between 1824 and 1829. On its completion, the church was the largest in North America. It remained the largest in North America for over 50 years. The first tower was finished in 1841 and the second in 1843. The interior of the basilica took much longer, and Victor Bourgeois, who also worked on Montreal's Mary Queen of the World Cathedral, worked on it from 1872 to 1879. With its dazzling combination of blue and gold, the basilica is a place like no other in Montreal. Once seen, never forgotten. The crucifixion is at the center of the altarpiece. Christ is represented as dying on the cross. The Blessed Virgin and Saint John stand on either side of the cross, while Mary Magdalene kneels at the foot. Beneath the altar, the image of the Last Supper appears, a magnificent wood sculpture based on Leonardo da Vinci's famous mural representing the institution of the Eucharist. In the center is the tabernacle, flanked by bas-relief sculptures in wood, showing angels and saints in adoration, according to the vision described in chapter 7 of the Apocalypse, Revelation. In the upper section of the altarpiece, we see the coronation of the Blessed Virgin. Christ, the Messiah, who has conquered death through his resurrection, crowns his mother in heaven. The great Cassavant organ that towers over the choir loft of the basilica was built in 1891. The pulpit is one of the basilica's greatest ornaments. The renowned sculptor Louis-Philippe Herbert, 1850-1917, created the ornamentation, particularly the two ground-level figures of the Old Testament prophets, Ezekiel and Jeremiah. As with the altarpiece, the pulpit signifies that the Old Testament of the Bible is the basis of Christian faith. To mark Notre Dame's centenary celebrations in 1929, new stained glass windows for the church were ordered. The themes of the ground floor windows recall the religious and social life of the early Ville Marie settlement. Because of the splendor and grand scale of the church, a more intimate chapel, the Chapel of the Sacred Heart, was built behind it. It was completed in 1888. After the disastrous fire on December 7, 1978, a complete restoration of the chapel's first two levels took place. The entire work was crafted in linden wood. The restored chapel was opened in 1982. The altarpiece consists of 32 bronze panels, which were cast by Morris Singer founders of London, England. The altarpiece is 5 meters wide and 8 meters high and weighs 20 tons. The theme chosen by the artist shows the march of humankind toward God, represented in the form of the Holy Trinity. The Father symbolized by a shining sun, the Son by the head of Jesus, and the Holy Spirit by an immense bird with extended wings. In 2000, Justin Trudeau gave his eulogy just steps from the high altar in this chapel during the state funeral of Pierre Trudeau, his father and Canada's 15th Prime Minister. It was also the setting of Celine Dion's December 1994 wedding to Renee Angelil and hosted the memorial service for Angelil in 2016. The Notre-Dame Basilica faces the Place d'Arc, a square surrounded by 500 Place d'Arc building, the Bank of Montreal head office, the New York Life building, and the Aldred Art Deco building. Adorning the square are two sculptures entitled The English Pug and the French Poodle. A dashing-looking Englishman holding his pug is giving a superior stare at Notre-Dame Basilica, symbol of the religious influence on French Canadians. 210 feet away at the northern corner of the edifice, a woman in a Chanel-style suit, poodle against her, shoots an offended look to the Bank of Montreal's head office, symbol of English power. With their masters oblivious to each other, the two dogs on the alert have already sniffed out the opportunity to unite. Inspired by the Commedia dell'arte and Two Solitudes from novelist Hugh MacLennan, these two snobs set up an ironically touching scene of the cultural distance between English and French Canadians. In the center of the square is this monument in memory of the founder of Montreal. It was unveiled on July 1, 1895, as part of the celebrations of the 250th anniversary of Montreal in 1892. In view one of the four mascarons by Louis-Philippe Herbert. The sculptures around the base of the monument.